Hello, everyone. It is a Friday. Happy Friday to you. So excited to be able to just speak to you and just so excited listening to it on my phone there. So I'm getting a little bit of an echo. And I hope you're having an absolutely great day. Listen, I want you to share this video out because we are going to talk about you finding peace in the midst of all of the chaos that we've been dealing with. I am joined, and he is in the studio, so I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. I'm joined by Dr. Josh Klapow. He's a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Josh. And I get so excited about talking to Dr. Josh because I always walk away with something, feeling stronger and feeling more empowered. Dr. Josh, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Keisha?
I have absolutely no complaints. It's a beautiful, beautiful day.
It is.
First, I want to say thank you so much. You have lots of stuff going on, and I'm going to allow you to give people the information so they can contact you after this because you're going to get such gems. So thank you first and foremost. And Dr. Josh, let's just get right into it. With all the things that we have going on right now, you know, I hear some people say, well, these aren't necessarily unprecedented times, but Dr. Josh, these are certainly difficult times. These are certainly different times.
Yes. And you know, to say they're not unprecedented, it's anybody's call.
Yeah.
But they are different times. And I would say for the majority of us, maybe under age 70-ish, you know, when you put together, let's just put it this way. When you put together a global pandemic and a case of police brutality that has sparked a global call for social justice, let's just put those together. Let's not even talk about unemployment. It's an election. You don't even have to talk about any of those. These are unique times. So you don't have to call them unprecedented, but they're unique times. And they're unique because the types of things that are happening, they tap into our emotions in very different ways than other events that maybe we've seen before, even though they maybe bother us or they motivate us. These are tapping into different kinds of emotions. And because of that, it's what makes these times so unique.
And, you know, I think there is a lot of judgment going around in terms of, you know, how people are responding. I'm seeing some people, and we're seeing some people responding with anger. Others are responding maybe even with apathy. Maybe, you know, there are others who may even be overwhelmed and just don't really know what to do. So I think we have plenty of judgment about how this person should or shouldn't respond. But really and truly, how are we to judge? Because guess what? We've never been here before, is what I hear you saying. We've never been here before.
Well, we've never been here before. And we can't pass judgment. Here's the thing. And you always hear this in relationships. I talk about this a lot in relationships. The worst thing you can do in an individual relationship is tell somebody else how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Or tell them what they should feel. You can tell them what to do. You can tell them what might work for you in actions. But man, if you tell somebody, you know, I know how you're feeling, it never works in relationships. It doesn't work in romantic relationships. It doesn't work in work relationships. So right now, there's so much feelings that are going on, and they're so complex. And I would argue for most of us, we're trying to figure them out ourselves. The last thing we should be doing is passing judgment on, and I'm going to be real careful about my words, passing judgment on how somebody is experiencing or feeling what is going on around them.
Yeah.
We shouldn't pass judgment. We can make judgments about their actions and what they're doing. But look, you have no right. Nobody has any right to pass judgment on someone else's feeling. You can pass some judgment on their actions. And I think that's where we get into trouble. And we also get into trouble partly because we're passing judgment on someone else's feelings when in reality, this is what I see in my individual clients, my corporate clients, we don't even know how we feel exactly.
Yeah. Well, because I find that at the beginning of all of this, dealing with the pandemic and the protests, there was a lot of strong emotions that I felt. And I'm learning that as I kind of step away from it, practice self-care, not consume as much of the news and all of the other rhetoric regarding this right now, it puts me in a different space, and I dare say a better space. Does that make sense?
It does. And here's the thing about emotions. And I think we all forget about this, but here's the thing about emotions. It's almost impossible to hold on to an emotional state, any state, happiness, anger, frustration, sadness. It's almost impossible to give on to that for more than about a couple hours before your emotion changes a little bit. So I'll give you a couple examples. When people particularly are angry, they can stay angry for about 25 minutes or so. And then after a while, just physiologically, they calm down. Now, they may get angry again, but they calm down. We see the same thing if you're grieving. People can be deeply upset. And then after a good cry, they'll feel different. So your emotions kind of go like this. So this idea of stepping back is really important because it gives you a better picture of where you're really at versus making your judgment about your whole life based on how I'm feeling right in this moment.
Yeah, that's real good. So, this is, why you're like nationally known, and this is my jam right here with you as it relates to you.
So, I've been waiting to say this. Like, I got to say this.
Okay.
For the people who love to watch you, it's your fault that I do all this media stuff. And I can only say this with one person. I thought about this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell the whole story. But several years ago, we're coming up on, let's see, my oldest is 21, so I didn't have kids. So over 20 years ago, the very first live television interview I ever did, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how it worked. It was sitting right next to you. And I so distinctly remember every anxiety fiber in my body was on fire. I was scared to death. And one of the things you said was, just look at me and let's just talk. And I remember that, I was so petrified. I was like, okay. And your smile, the way you handled the conversation, it absolutely allowed me to get through it. And I think about this a lot because had it gone differently, I may have never showed up at a TV studio again. But you really put my career on a very different trajectory. And so that's why I love doing what I do now, because I want to share the information with as many people as possible.
That is awesome. And I remember the day, like clearly, like vividly, coming to the studio at ABC 3340, and this is just kind of, and even though I'm not in that capacity as a news anchor, this is still fun to me. And this is my space and my sphere, because I still feel my calling is to help people through times just like this. So I appreciate the shout out. But hey, sometimes we're just a conduit, just a conduit to get people to where they need to go, or either to pull that out. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity. But let me tell you, this is my jam right here when I talk to you, because you are very good about kind of giving us that those how-tos, like moving us forward from there, because I'm solution oriented, and I know that you are as well. So we've got the pandemics we're dealing with. We've got the protests we're dealing with. No need to rehash all of that. We're following the news. We well know that, okay? But moving past, Dr. Josh, because some of this does have a residue on our soul. What are some of the things that we need to do to start moving that away from our soul so it doesn't stick to us? Oh, his screen is frozen. Dr. Josh, are you still there? His screen is absolutely frozen. Let me see if I can take him off of the studio. Dr. Josh. Let's see if his studio is doing again. Dr. Josh, if you would give us a call back. Y'all, so sorry about that. He's back. And through the magic of television, there you are again. It just had to wake up.
Live TV, you go with it, right?
Got it. But I love it. It just taught me something. I just kind of said, let me take him out of the studio and then let's just bring him back. So boom, there we go. So did you get my last question about moving us forward now, dealing with the emotions and not allowing it to just sit and rest on us? What do we do?
I'm gonna have a little bit of bad news.
Okay.
So what I mean by it, it's not bad news. It's not easy news.
Yeah.
There are a lot of us that are saying, I'm tired. Physically tired and emotionally drained. You and I are talking about this idea of emotional hangover. And there's a lot of people saying, I want to move forward. I think forward is good. I get concerned when people say, I just want to get past this. This, first of all, is not done. So the idea of I just need to put this all behind me and move forward, you kind of can't, because we still have it. It is still going on, and it's going to be going on. And this is where I said the bad news. This is not something that's just going to go on until the end of next week.
That's
both
right.
on the protest side, on the social change side, and God knows we got a pandemic going on that ain't going away for a while. So I think that if you get yourself in this mindset of, I'm done. I hear this, I'm done with this. Well, then now you're not testing with reality, because you're not done and it's not done. What you can say is, I want to, and I need to move forward with my life given what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is, if you can take what's going on and say, this is my reality. We have a pandemic. There's amazing social change going on. There are protests, and there's some violence going on. There are people getting sick. This is my reality. Okay, what do I do? Not everybody. What do I do specifically to march forward in my life, given my reality? And that's what I'm saying. The bad news, it's not the bad news, but it's, you can't discount your life and try to move it forward, because you'll hit a brick wall, because life is still going on.
That's kind of like a gut reality check, Dr. Josh.
It is. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have an amazing life. What it may mean, and I'll tell you the difference between people who are able to sort of navigate this and people who are really feeling stuck.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are feeling stuck tend to get stuck in this mindset. This is not how it used to be. Things are different. I can't do what I used to be able to do. I'm supposed to be able to do what I used to be able to do. People are acting different. It's basically this focus on, I want it as it was, on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who are stuck, because reality is smacking them in the face.
Mm-hmm.
People who are moving through are saying, this is what I can do. No, I can't just walk around freely without fear of getting sick. Yes, I need to wear a mask and be considerate. No, I can't pretend as a white male that there is not an incredible social change, and I do have to educate myself more about what I say and how I say it. If you accept those things, then you can live your life on your terms. But the people who say those things I'm not going to deal with are the ones who can't move forward.
It almost sounds to me like you're saying that the ones who may struggle are the ones who are focusing more on a loss mentality. I've lost the way it used to be. I've lost the ability to be able to go and travel free willy-nilly. I've lost the ability to go and maybe go to the restaurant and not have to wear a mask. But the ones who have pivoted and who have said, look, okay, I can't, okay, things have changed and I can't ignore the elephant in the room. The elephant is still there, but while I have opportunity, I can do X, Y, and Z. It's different, but there are some things I can still do. So it's this loss versus pivot mentality.
It is, although I even say this, Keisha.
Yeah.
Individuals who are accepting of the loss actually do better than the ones who are not willing to accept the loss. Let's put it in real practical terms. I can make it very practical.
Yeah.
Think about somebody who is somebody who has a loved one who has just died. And this is tough to hear, but someone who's just died, you will see these different stages of grief. And they're in the early stages, that kind of, this is reality. And it makes it really hard to function because that person is no longer there.
Yeah.
But once they move to the place where, this person is gone, my life is going to be different, I've lost this person, they feel bad and they grieve, but that's when they can begin to make the pivot. So if you think about it right now, the folks who are saying, I just don't want it to be this way, they're the ones who are really stuck. The ones who may be frustrated or sad. Hey, I can't work the job that I used to be able to work. I can't go to the restaurants. I feel uncomfortable sitting in front of my Black friends now. But the ones who sort of say, okay, given that that's what it is, what do I do about it? And not just focus on wishful thinking. Those are the ones who are primed and ready psychologically now to take the next step, which is, okay, let's get real practical. What do I do? How do I find the new job? How do I enjoy myself in a time where I have to wear a mask?
Yeah.
How do I help us? How do I help learn more? Again, how do I learn more about what my white friends think if I'm Black? If I'm white, what do I learn about white privilege and racial injustice and that I didn't know before? Like, as crazy as things are right now, oh my God, there is so much opportunity for us to evolve. And look, let me also say this. There are a lot of people who are hurting right now. They're hurting for all kinds of reasons. They're maybe hurting economically.
Yeah.
Their business may be going under, or they may not have a job. They may be hurting physically. A family member may be sick, or they may have developed the virus. They may be a part of intergenerational trauma experiences. So I'm not saying that it's all rosy, but I think what you can learn if you're in the right mindset is A, how tough you are psychologically, B, how much grit and endurance you may have to move forward, and C, how much ingenuity you have to figure out your life. This is a huge test right now. And there are so many people who are going to rise to levels that they never thought. And I don't just mean necessarily economically, but psychologically, interpersonally, spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. No, I love what you're saying. And what I heard the word opportunity, I tend to be the person who looks at, glass half full as opposed to half empty, so I heard that word opportunity.
I'm half empty.
Yeah.
Always. I am the cynic in my family.
Seriously?
I'm a classic. Yes, I am working actively and have for about 20 years on how to be more optimistic, because I am the one who thinks that way. And I'll tell you, the research is super clear. If you can learn to be optimistic. And if you learn to look, here's your trick. Here's your life hack for being a little bit more optimistic. Yeah. Stop telling yourself, and for all of you out there who are like me and are more pessimistic, you don't have to just tell yourself to be happy and think positive, because let me tell you, that doesn't work. Yeah. They take it from someone who's pessimistic. But what you can do is absolutely look in your world for those things that you are either grateful for or make you feel good. So I may be pessimistic, but it's not hard for me to look around. I'm using a real easy one. It's a gorgeous day where we're living today. I can be happy by the lower humidity. When I start looking for positive things in my life, it starts moving me towards optimism. And the way that I get there is by looking for those positive things. So I don't have to say to myself, I feel happy or I feel optimistic. I literally can look for the things, and that will change the way my brain's wired. So it's a little optimistic life hack for you right there.
I love it. I love it, because I think sometimes too, as the optimist, people sometimes think that you don't really see reality. Yes. You do, they're like, are you looking at what's going on? How can you say that? Are you looking around you? How can you focus on, oh God, but it's such a beautiful day. And I've always been that way. And I just had to recognize that, okay, maybe I'm a square and I may not fit inside the hole, and I'm okay with that, So let me allow my voice to rise in spite of, and those who are going to receive it, they're going to receive it. And those who don't, they won't. So, but I think even for the optimist though, for someone like myself, I think what we have to learn, Dr. Josh, is to be more compassionate, and be more aware of the others who are feeling just a little bit more deeply, because we can come off, and I can come off sometimes as unfeeling. And that's not the case at all. It's just that, my brain makes a choice when I'm confronted with those things. And a lot of times I just try to go to the other side. Now I deal with the frustration. I deal with the anger at some things I see, but I come to a square place where I make a choice. But again, balance, I have to balance it and say, don't be unfeeling, or understand that there are others who are feeling a little bit more deeply, and they may need a little bit more time to get to where you are.
Well, you just tapped on the word that we all need to be doing, and it's really hard. But what we need to be doing right now is seeking to understand. Seeking to understand what that other person or people, it's easier at an individual level. What is that other person feeling? How did they come by this? What are they thinking? We very often, it's a natural human thing to be absorbed in how we feel, absorbed in how we see the world. I mean, it bodes well for us a lot of the time. It allows us to move from point A to point B. But when you're talking about trying to interact with somebody, the more that you can be curious and try to figure out, by asking questions, by thinking outside yourself, how is this person feeling? Why are they feeling this way? And you can go one step further. Why do they think this way? And instead of making assumptions about, trying to connect with them through a point of curiosity, what I'm getting at is this concept of empathy, which, a lot of people are like, they put empathy into two camps. Either, it's that psychobabble stuff, I don't need to deal with it. Or, it's really hard. It's too hard. And what I would tell you is right now, the safest thing that you can do, and again, in full disclosure, not only am I a pessimist, I tend to be, as my wife says, I tend to be a little judgy, right? I'm one of those guys who, particularly with my background in public health, every time I see someone who's not wearing a mask, right? Yeah. My initial reaction is not, I wonder why they're not wearing a mask. I wonder how they got to this place of making a decision not to wear a mask. My initial judgment is, great. They don't care about the rest of us. Yeah. And I'll share. Well, and let me share you a tiny story about that, because it goes for how this can prove you wrong. So, and this is not just this is not just pandemic stuff. This is the same thing about, I hear this a lot with other white individuals about white privilege. I am not privileged, right? I grew up poor. I don't understand what they're thinking about, right? I don't understand how you get to that. Let me tell you, though, about the mask first, because it's a little more clear. I'm pretty judgy about people not wearing masks. I know as a public health professional, we should be wearing masks. And every time I see somebody out not wearing a mask, my first thought is, you don't care enough about me or anybody else to put that mask on. I got into this a little bit in social media, talking about it, and somebody came back to me in social media and said, 15 years ago, I was raped. And the man put his hand over my mouth and almost strangled me and killed me by not being able to breathe. Ever since then, I have an extreme phobia to anything near my mouth. Wow. I can't put a mask on. And I remember thinking, as soon as I read that, I felt horrible. Yeah. Shame. I hadn't attacked her, but I remember thinking, I never even thought about your story. I never even thought about your story. And granted, that's not everybody. Sure. But that was a time when I wrote. So it's the same thing on the social side. I don't understand. Again, if we're going to go, I don't understand white privilege from a personal experience standpoint. I'm white.
Yeah.
Right? The only way that I can understand it is to read about it,
Yeah.
to talk to someone who's Black, who doesn't benefit from white privilege, but really to understand your story.
Yeah.
Those are big topics, but let me shrink it down even more. If you're in a relationship with somebody, personal relationship, love relationship, work relationship, and there's friction and it's not working, the best thing you can do is sit down with them and say, help me understand where you're at right now. How do you feel? What's your story? So the only reason I'm saying is I was talking about really big topics, but you can make them small topics or personal topics.
Yeah. I'm listening to you. I thought that was good, especially, and Dr. Josh, what could we accomplish as a whole in our community, in our interpersonal relationships, if we were to just take that moment? And I'm guilty. I told you I laughed yesterday as I watched some of your videos, and in one of those videos you were saying how sometimes you can get defensive, and I'm thinking, yeah, I think we all can. We can get pretty defensive about things, especially right now. But how good would it be, interpersonal relationships, on our jobs, with what's going on with the order of the day, if we were to really just have a cool head? My saying in my family, I really don't share it personally, but my saying has always been, a cool head wins the day. It always wins. Now, do I always practice it? I need some help. I need remedial courses sometimes on it. I'm just saying.
Yes. I mean, see, emotions, part of the reason is our emotions are the most powerful thing we have. Yeah. And they, for good and evil, if you will, they can drive us to do the most amazing things, but they also can cloud very much our reality. And so, you've heard all the cliches. Don't make any big life decisions when you're in a tough emotional state, right? Even don't go to bed angry. The reason people say all these things is because when we're in a strong emotional state, anything, joy, frustration, anger, defensiveness, shame, whatever, our ability to truly see what's happening in the world is distorted. That thing I was talking about, defensiveness, we can't even, if we're in a defensive feeling or a defensive stance, we can't even hear what the other person is saying in a way that's logical. We will absolutely distort. And it's so funny because people's like, oh, that's not true. Well, Lord, yeah, right now it is true. You're being defensive. Like literally the fact that you're saying it's not true is you're defending yourself.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. So on the super easy practical level, the best thing we can do is, if you feel yourself, I use this term, all jacked up. Now, just emotionally, you may be angry, you may be frustrated, you may be exhausted, you may be sad. The best thing you can do is take that step back and reset and recalibrate, even if it's for just a minute before you engage. That's the best thing you can do. Sometimes it takes more than a minute. Sometimes it's better not to have the conversation and to give yourself, this is the whole thing about going to bed angry. I can tell you this right now, having worked with hundreds and hundreds of people, sometimes it's okay to go to bed angry. In fact, it's better to go to bed angry than to try to grind out some sort of resolution when you're not in a good place. Same thing goes with work if you're frustrated. Same thing goes right now with people who may have very different views than you do. If you're getting really jacked up emotionally, it's probably better to take a step back and do nothing and say nothing. Your brain time to process.
I like that. I am a person who has, you touched on something really quickly, and I want to just make sure I touch on it. I have a lot of diverse friends. You understand? You and I go way back. So what I have determined to do is I can see a lot of world events, Dr. Josh, and I could, if I'm not careful, we could make deductions, we could make assumptions, but I I am choosing not to do that. In fact, I had an instance happen recently, and my husband said something to me, and involving a racial issue. And my husband said, instead of you assuming, or instead of you going through the thought process, why don't you go directly to the person and just say, hey, I want to talk to you. And I thought, it was like, ding, it was like a light bulb. So initially I wouldn't have been able to do it, but that's exactly what I did. And I said, hey, I really want to hear from you about this. So I think, and here's the deal. I'm not saying that will even change anything, but I'm saying that's a mature way of dealing with it, a mature way. And also, I'm not going to make judgment calls on my friends. The better thing for me to do now is to kind of get away from my emotions. I love what you just said. Get away from my emotions. Be careful about how much of this negativity I'm ingesting right now. And once it's kind of, and like you said, it's not going anywhere. So once I kind of formulate my own whatever, my own thought process about it, and I settle myself, if I do have questions, or if I do want to reach out, or if I do want to make some statements, or if I have something that I want to know, pertaining to, my white friends or Caucasian friends, or however we want to say that, then I can come to you when I'm level and I'm not in an explosive or defensive state. And then we can have genuine conversation that moves the needle forward. So I'm really just registering with what you said.
Yeah, I mean, so just a tiny bit of the brain chemistry here, because I want people to understand that this is not just it's a touchy-feely psychological thing. Here's what happens when we are protecting ourselves. And look, right now, a lot of us are defensive for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying being defensive is inherently bad. It's how we protect our emotions. Everyone's heard about defense mechanisms, denial, those kinds of things. But when we are in a strong defensive place, our information processing, the way our auditory system, our ears take in information and our brain interprets it, it takes our frontal cortex, the front part of our brain, which is where our executive functioning, our judgment and stuff, mm-hmm. it diminishes it. It's almost like it takes it offline. That's what we like to say. It's offline. And so when we're very defensive, we lose our brain's ability to fully process what's going on. And as a result, we think we're just doing things normally, but we're missing details, we're missing information, we miss tone. A lot of times the reason that's happening is because our frontal cortex, or the frontal part of our brain, is so worried or focused on us, that we're missing what's going on. And that's why we talk about our frontal cortex being offline. So what I would say is, right now, what makes these times so unique, there are a lot of things that strike the heart of humans, and deep in the heart. One is fear of illness or death. That makes us scared overall. And we have a pandemic. So that's a hot topic, because it hits us in ways that, economics and even other things don't hit us. When you're talking about being sick or dying, that hits us at a very deep level. The other piece that hits us very deep is social rejection, broadly defined. So the idea of not being accepted or being harmed because of who we are. Mm-hmm. So if you take those two things, which are the most hardwired evolutionary things, and if you think about it, I'm going to get a little anthropological on you, but if you think about it, mm-hmm. the reason that they're so hardwired for us is if we're sick, we could die, and that means we don't live, right? And that's been, as long as you've been human, that's that side. That's why it's so ingrained. And the social side is, if we're rejected by humans, by other humans, it is something that potentially makes it life-threatening for us. And I'm saying life-threatening even from a historical standpoint. If you go back to being a cave person and you were living in a cave and your tribe said you're out, you died. And so what I'm saying is, take that over thousands of years, And the two topics that our country is facing right now, our world's facing, strike us deep emotionally and cause us to do things that are very reflexive, sometimes beyond our awareness. And being aware that that's what's happening can give us a little more compassion for either the things that we may say ourselves or the things that other people may say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Help us to, as you say, cope with this, Dr. Josh. It's not going away. But what can you put in the hands? What can we put in the hands of people to help them over these next coming weeks and months?
Yeah. So I was talking about this the other day. It's important. It's important to make your world, at least part of your world, very small. We always say, and that's actually, contrary to what we talk about. You don't want to have tunnel vision. You want to see the bigger picture. And particularly those of us who work with, companies and executives, you got to see the big picture. You got to be strategic. I'm telling you, if you want to get through the day, there are times there's a part of you that has to see your world very small. What I mean by that is, instead of, or in addition to thinking about global issues and social injustice and intergenerational racism and a global pandemic, what am I going to do today? Well, because you'd be amazed at, given that the topics are so big right now. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this. How many people are having a hard time remembering what day it is?
Oh, yeah.
And we've never, so part of the way that you get through practically is, what am I going to do today? Where is my joy going to come from today? Where is my purpose going to come from today? What do I need to get done today? What can I leave on the table and not have to get done today? And maybe, just maybe, what are my plans for tomorrow? This idea of living it day by day, and I'm not suggesting that that's the only way that you think, but what I'm saying is, if you've lost that, if that's somehow gone away because you're so caught up in all these big things, it's okay to anchor back to what you as one individual can and should do for their life in the moment. We're talking so much about, the health of the world and what society thinks of racial injustice. Those are so big that we forget, what do I need to do today? Do I need to go to the grocery store?
Yeah.
Do I need to step outside? Do I need to get my exercise in? What that does, it has two effects. One, it keeps you a little bit from getting stuck in this, oh my God, the world's huge. So it gives you some practical things to do. The other thing is, psychologically, Keisha, it's a reminder that as big as the world is, as big as the issues are, as dangerous or as uncertain as they may feel, I still have control over my life. It's an important psychological reminder that I can get up, eat my breakfast, hug my kids, walk outside, do my exercise, and maybe do my job. Intellectually, I may say, well, those aren't that big of a deal. But psychologically, emotionally, I need to feel that accomplishment in order to move to the next day. Because if I don't feel that, I don't move to the next day. And as soon as I don't move to the next day, then I'm stuck.
I love that, because as you were saying that, the word that came to me, and you just referenced it a couple of times, but the word that I heard was movement. Movement. Let me do what I can to move throughout the day. And I think that, and you're the clinical physician. I'm the life coach over here. But to me, what that says is, like you said as well, accomplishment. I can accomplish something, even though the world has its issues, and I may not be able to change that at the moment. But here's what I can change. Here's the change I can affect. Here's what I can do positively. And as you were saying that, this is funny, because sometimes, Dr. Josh, we can be so self-centered. I was thinking, yeah, I can go out today and get my exercise and walk the dog. Okay, I can cook a healthy meal today,
Well, and don't, it's easy for us to discount that to ourselves. And I see this a lot you see this. So think about this. When there is a tragedy, an acute tragedy, a tornado, an earthquake, a fire, someone's house is burned down, or God forbid, the death of a loved one. If you think about it, we get real small in terms of our sense of accomplishment. I got to get out of bed today. I got to find a place to live. I got to eat. We get, and we talk about that. We say, and we say that's really important because given what's just happened, I have to do those things. I think what we're struggling with right now is these things are going on and on and on. And so we say things like, well, come on, walking the dog is not a major accomplishment in my life. And so again, another kind of psychological hack, if you will, even though you may think it's not a major accomplishment, like getting out of bed and putting your clothes on and getting showered, what it does to your emotions and to almost to your subconscious, it reminds it, I've made something good. I've done something good. And that gives you the momentum to maybe do something larger. It's when you believe at a deep level that walking the dog is not even something I should be doing or I can do, that's when we're in real trouble. So it builds momentum. It's like a fuel for motivation. So you may not think it's a big deal, which is fine, but allow yourself to do it anyway, because you'll find that becomes the building block for something maybe larger that you have to tackle.
That's so good. That's so good. That's so good. And I don't think I can add anything else to that. But, because I think you're helping people. I think if, sometimes our help isn't because let me just say this as I want to say it. People are going to need the likes of you in the coming weeks and months. So the person, that grounding force, because I tend to wonder, I kind of work in that space of trying to work on myself. I work in that space and you do too as a clinical psychologist, because you're looking at how do we move the ball forward? How do I help people move the ball forward? But I think in the coming weeks and months, I think that what you do will be so important, because there's some people who may not have that natural inclination for whatever reason, or just are so overwhelmed. So, I'm really hoping that people grasp and get this information and take it. What I'm just hearing you say, bring it down, come small. You may not think it's a big deal, but just if you can do that one thing, it's building on something else. It's just that simple thing. Dr. Josh, I could talk to you all day, because you know how I am about what you give and the advice that you give, which I think is just absolutely super. Tell people how they can follow you and hear more from you.
Absolutely. So I have a webpage. It's just joshklapow.com. And if you Google me, Klapow's a hard name, but anything close, it should come up. I encourage you also to follow them. And that webpage is kind of a hub for everything I do, including I've set up a whole pandemic COVID coping section of that webpage, which has just got some good life stuff. It's focused on dealing with change, etc. The other thing I'd encourage folks to do, and this is relatively new for me, is I'm putting a lot more information out on Instagram in just a slightly different way. And so my Instagram address is at Dr. Josh K. That's also my Twitter handle as well. And I will tell you this, what I can promise everyone who's watching us, I am putting out content, videos, podcasts, news interviews, written content. I have made it my mission over the last 3 or 4 months to put out stuff almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Now, for some people, it's too much, but it's okay. It's not going anywhere. But I just encourage you that I am working hard to create little snippets for all of us, and to try to also be, frankly, Kisa, much more transparent probably than I've ever been in my professional career in the media. So I think it's important. I'm old enough now. I've got enough experience on my belt. So I always kid people, if you watch any of my videos, either on Instagram or on my webpage, then I'll just say this there is a decent chance that whatever the topic is that I happen to be talking about, if it got posted that day, that issue happened to me is somehow, some way in that day. And so that's just my way of making it, absolutely real. But joshklapow.com or at Dr. Josh K on Instagram and Twitter. And, and then locally and sometimes nationally, you'll see me pop up on the news every once in a while.
Always a pleasure. I put your information in the lower third there for people to be able to follow you.
The lower third. See, it's like old times again.
Back in TV. It's a reunion. How about that?
I love it. Keisha, thank you. Listen, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for putting this stuff out there, for putting yourself out there. We do need it. We all need it. We need different perspectives, not just from a clinical psychologist, but thank you for making the platform and for having me on. I'm grateful to be back sitting virtually next to you once again.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Josh. It's always a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Bye-bye. Have a great Friday.